So what I wanted to do tonight is talk a little bit more about the working patterns. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to like look at the working patterns that I sent, if you had any questions, but it was like a lot. I felt like it was a lot last week. So I wanted to talk just a little bit more about creating working patterns and how to think about creating working patterns for certain horses and their attributes. So the purpose of working patterns is to put the horses on better on the aids and encourage them to positively anticipate the work. So when riding horses, it's important that they are in front of you enough, like in front of your seat enough. So much so that when you ask them for a transition or make a half halt or a movement, that they're still carrying you, that doesn't cause them to stutter or to break rhythm or to lose their self-carriage, and then that you feel like you have to start working or gripping or pushing in order to keep the gait well enough and do the movement. So that's what I really like to use the working patterns for, is to create that mental aspect of the horse like really looking forward to the next thing. The mental aspect behind working patterns is to acknowledge a bit about your own horse's natural tendencies and then work with those to better create reactions and habits. So we talked about last week how working patterns are going to be a little bit different than tests, where we're not trying to make everything perfect. We might repeat a bunch of stuff in the trot. We might go walk, trot, canter. We might stay in the canter and do a lot of stuff in the canter. We might not even have to repeat on both sides, all depending on how your horse processes things. And what we are really talking about is that positive anticipation. So many people will tell me that they don't want to repeat something. They don't want to go through their test start to finish. They don't want their horse to be anticipating. And what I learned is that if my horse anticipated the right way, then it would be more like I had a dance partner rather than that I was kind of manipulating and pushing something around the ring all the time. You're going to start to teach your horse to do something in a certain way and then use that energy to create certain movements. That also that the horse is thinking and having that willingness to do what you want. So one of the things that I really like to do is teach my horses that I take them into the corners and they take me out of the corners. And so as exercises in working patterns, I create this lesson. And there's many, many different ways that you can do that. But what I really like is that the horses let me set them up for the corner and the corner that I want. And then I encourage them to have energy going out, like it's their enthusiasm that takes me out of that corner. So when you're not thinking like that, I believe that oftentimes the horses are preparing themselves for the corner in a way that isn't going to benefit the next movement. So you can think about, horses that, depending on which direction you're going, sometimes horses will, fall a little bit on their inside shoulder as they're coming to the corner so they don't have to get so deep. Other horses can get like a little bit stuck and then stalled out in the corner because they're running through the outside. So I want them to stand up and let me decide the depth of the corner. That depth is going to depend on, the level of the horse and what kind of movement is coming next. And the first exercise that I'm going to do, one of the exercises, the first one I'm going to talk about is that I walk as I enter into the corner. And then I walk through the corner. And then as I'm coming out, I trot out. And depending on the horse and depending on the hollow side or the stiff side, I might leg yield a little bit into that corner to create that supple rib cage. Or if it's a horse that kind of runs out, I may defend a little bit on that outside and then, encourage the horse to step under with the inside hind leg, but just defend a little bit on the outside so that those hind legs aren't swinging out. And that exercise, if you repeat it several times in a row, then what you find, so I come to the corner, I walk through the corner, maybe with a little bit leg yielding. And then as I'm facing out, I trot out. And if I repeat this, maybe all the way around the arena, do 4 corners or do 6 corners, and then change direction, and then the same thing the other way. After that, I feel that the corner is mine. So the horse is like, are we going to walk? Are we going to leg yield? And then I can decide, yes, we're going to walk, or no, we're just going to stand up a little bit, and then you're going to take me back out. And that idea that they go out forward, they're going to start to think, oh, here's where we go forward. So I barely have to ask. And then that energy I can turn into a diagonal with a lengthening. I could turn it into a shoulder in or whatever I want, because they're already thinking this is where we go forward. So I'm working with that mental aspect, and that I don't want to punish the horse for going forward. I just want to take that energy and turn it into something. So that is where we need to ride in a way that we are with the horses when they start anticipating in this positive way. The second exercise that I want to talk about is to trot to the corner and go straight in, and then let the boards help me create a halt, and then rein back, and then trot out and do the corner. Now, this is a rein back that is very gentle. It's very methodical. It's just bringing the horses a little bit into their hind legs. And when I slide my leg forward, I really want to have that horse anticipating to go forward with those hind legs that I've created in the rein back. So I'm going to slide my leg back for the rein back and slide my leg forward for the forward. And then when I am not making the halt, I might come into the corner, sliding my legs a little bit back, letting that horse think a little bit about his hind legs, sitting in a little bit into the hind legs more, and then slide the legs forward as I'm coming out of the corner. And again, that's another way to teach the horses to really take that energy out. I don't want to be, either in training or in a test, where I have to be pushing the horse out of the corner. So I want them mentally to know that this is where they go. So if that's a time for energy. And every time I turn on the diagonal, my horses know that this is a time for going forward. They're eager to go because I taught them that. And that doesn't mean it's always perfect. So I'm not asking them to go forward and then holding them perfect. Sometimes they might lose their balance a little bit. They might canter off, that whatever it is. But the beginning is just teaching that energy and that eagerness. And if in the beginning they don't get excited, of course, you have to back that up. Maybe a little kick or maybe a little tap just to encourage that energy to come. And always the reward, even if they make a little bit of a rhythm mistake or something, because once they bring the energy in, and then you get to help with the half vaults and with the balancing with your seat. If they're not bringing the energy in, then you are having to bring the energy and the balance, and that's not your responsibility. They need to bring the energy, they need to bring that enthusiasm, and then you get to put that energy into the shape that you want together with them. So with your horse thinking clearly about what is expected, then you can start to add new exercises to the pattern. So for once you've got those corners established, then you can add anything that you want. You can maybe make a corner with the walk transition and the leg yielding and then the trotting out, and actually do a lengthening down the long side. And then you can come to the walk in the next one and maybe do a big turn on the hind legs and come back and do your medium down the long side again, or something like that. Be creative about those working patterns. And if the horse is not experienced at, for turn on the hind legs, then there's no reason why you can't just do a big shallow loop and leg yield back to the track and then go forward. Be creative about what's going to get that body working, and the horse mentally remembering the hind legs and how they are involved in the balance and in the self-carriage. So for horses that run on a little bit, you're going to add working patterns that have add small steps. For horses that are a little bit sluggish, then you're going to be really letting them think about going forward and making big steps. And then as they start to get those big steps, then you get to say, hey, not so much. And then they don't feel like you're pushing and pushing all the time. Lengthening on center lines can be really good because we're always being so strict and touchy-feely about the center lines. And so sometimes just letting the horses open up and have a little fun on the center lines can give them a little bit better idea about the center line. And that was something when I was training Glorious right from the beginning. I had ridden so many horses that other people had shown first before me, and they were very, very nervous and uptight on the center lines. And so when I had him and I got to start him from the beginning, having fun on the center line and him feeling super confident on the center line was really a priority for me. And he just, I never got ever bad marks on my center lines because it was so important to me. If I had to teach him about square halts or anything like that, I never did it on the center line. I always played with him on the center line, let him come forward and back, and rewarded him in a really positive way. And it showed up in my test. So it's definitely worth it. For if you have horses that kind of run through your half halts, then you might want to do a little bit more transitions and reward right away when the transition happens, so that they really stop bullying through the half halts. But always with a nice reward when you're, don't let it get tedious when you're doing those transitions. But it's worse to go longer, longer and longer, and let the horse get longer and longer and less aware. And then you have to make a big aid to make your transition. It's better to keep that horse a little bit closer to you and do lots of transitions and maybe little leg yield in your transitions. And when you feel that it follows through, always with a big reward, especially on a horse that sometimes has a tendency to bully, because the more you reward them, the more it becomes important for them to stay with you and to listen to you. So when horses positively anticipate, it gives you the opportunity to just sit back and ride. This is the difference between saying, like, all the time, like, no, don't do that. Or, yeah, that's it. Now, while you're going like that, add this. And it's a much different feeling. And we do have to get used to it, because many people are more comfortable with controlling every single step. And when you ride like that, there's always going to be that point of no return. Anybody who has taken lessons with me knows I talk about that point of no return, a place where you can no longer hold everything together. So for me, when I lighten and let go a little bit, I want my horses to stay the same. So how light can I ride without my horse changing? And then they can be on light aids. So if I'm sitting and I'm moving with the movement and my horse is carrying me nicely and I want a little more, it doesn't take a lot of pushing. But if I'm holding everything together and I feel like if I let go, that everything's going to fall apart, then it's going to be a lot of aid to get more. And so I really want that, that we remember that when I ask for something, I want a reaction. But when I lighten my aid, I want my horse to stay the same. And that is something we have to teach them. Think all the time that you're teaching your horse how to go for you. You're making it, whether you are a trainer or not, you are the one training your horse when you're riding it. So what I was trying to think of, that feeling of kind of controlling the horse every step, or letting it be a little bit more free and then looking for reactions. And I was thinking about if you were dancing with somebody and you felt like they were always just a little bit behind you, and you ended up like kind of having to pull them around rather than that the two of you were in sync. And then when you're feeling like you have to pull that person because they're just like a half a step behind, and all the time you're just having to take them over here, all of a sudden your body gets pressured in anticipating what it's going to feel like when that person is not coming with you. So if you're doing a certain step and that person is just a little bit behind you, you know the steps, you're listening to the music, they're just a little behind the music, you're going to start leaning it as you're bringing. And that's what happens when we're riding a horse that's behind the leg and we have to hold together, and we feel like if we let go everything, we end up with this certain pressure. We start leaning against the reins a little bit. We might be tightening our seat because our legs get clamped on. And so that, and it makes it so our aids just cannot be as precise as we want them to be. So the more we learn to just sit and allow our legs to be wrapped around the horse in a coddling way, and our hands to be feeling the mouth in a nice and gentle and supple way, then the more our aids can be precise. So if you are thinking about a horse that you come out of the corner, you want to make a lengthening, and you know the horse is going to fall down. And so your body's already anticipating that bad feeling. That is going to create this pressure. And if we're teaching the horses to be with us as we go across, we come out of the corner and they anticipate going forward, and we are going with them in that forward, then we get to recycle that energy instead of feeling like we have to hold them from falling down. So your horse starts to be the creator, and then you get to just balance that energy and ask the horses, what do we want to do with that energy, instead of being every step creating. So believing that your horse can be a thinking and willing partner will change your approach every day. So does anybody have any questions about that? It's the patterns that we talked about last week, and the ones that I sent in the email last week. I just wanted to come back to like how we're getting the horses to think, so that when we're creating these working patterns, or you're choosing working patterns, you can get that idea, like, is it easier for me to ride them, or is that working pattern actually working against me, and I need to use a different one? I need to create a different one. So if we don't have any questions, then what I would love to do, because Aachen is this weekend, and I thought that we could watch a couple tests. So let's see, can I make that small? There we go. All right, we'll watch this one, and then we'll watch Charlotte and maybe Stefan. So this is the Grand Prix from today in Aachen. And this is the last big show before the Olympics. So some of the riders that are here at this show this weekend are are going to also be competing in the Olympics in Paris. And this show, Aachen, is always so fabulous to watch because there are just so many German combinations. There's a lot of really good rides. Such a difficult angle that they show you the two tempies from. They're probably, I don't, we can't see the scores, but from that angle, it looks like the one change is short and the one is long, but I think it's just the view. I don't actually think that's what's happening. Very nice with the one tempies. Very good. Do you see how he loses just a little bit the rhythm in the canter there? The hind legs start to jump together. It was a little bit too big also, but hind legs start to jump together. So that's going to be quite a loss in the points there because it lost the true canter. The first one was a bit big, but the rhythm in the canter really stayed. And the second one, unfortunately, she tried to make it a little bit smaller, but then that didn't work out for her, and he lost his balance and then jumped together with the hind legs, which of course we know it's supposed to be rhythm at the bottom of our training pyramid. So once you lose that rhythm, the points will substantially change. Oops, so that's very unfortunate that yeah, he's really nice to say that he lost the balance, but I think the horse has so much energy in that piaffe in the other two that I think she trusted him a little bit to keep going, and he was. So can you hear the commentator, or can you just hear me? And can you see the test okay?
We can only hear you.
You can only hear me? You can't hear the commentator?
No, we could, it looked, I could see it fine though.
Okay, great. All right. So Charlotte will ride this Glamourdale in the Olympics. And I think she's the only Brit that came to Aachen. So this horse is just so beautifully light on its feet, and I like it much better than her other ride. So you just see a little bit more of that swing and the half passes, where the other horse he got a little bit mixed up with the direction, and so there was a lot of crossover, but you felt like the inside was stopping. This horse, you really see that he's trotting forward, and to the forward trot you adds that nice beautiful half passes. Not so obedient in the halt, but the reining back very nice. And just really nice, the same hind legs and front legs in these medium and extended trots. So very good to see. Not the best with the passage. Very much on the spot, but losing the rhythm and a little pedestaling there in the piaffe, which is sometimes typical for this horse. But I think that the passage, also the marks are going for this set of piaffe passage. They're giving him, now I see I think that for me that the passage was not really even step after step after step. There were several passages in that little part there. So for me, I would like to see that a little bit stronger. Her walk is better than the horse that we saw before, right? Oh, I see. Very good transition. And this passage looks much more honest. And coming into the piaffe much better this time. And this time he stays much better underneath her, loses a little bit one step coming out, but the passage and the piaffe much better in this tour than the other one. Transition to the canter, quite relaxed. And again, they give us a little bit this funny view, but with this horse, you can see that the changes really from here look fairly even and not very straight and big. So he took up the whole diagonal for those twos, which is really awesome. And the extended canter really canter. So I think with the other horse, we just saw a little distortion in the canter, and this one he has to get great marks for the two tempies. Looks like, yeah, 9.4 for the extension. Very good. Fabulous for the zigzag. So the zigzag is the 3-6-6-6-3. And 15 of the ones, just a little tension there at the end, but really very, very nice also with the one tempies and clean. You know, you don't want to have mistakes in those. And good balance in the pirouette, nice and straight with the change. So the change, you know, the marks for the change are very important as well, that we don't have. Very good. Now you can see that the pirouettes, the balance, very good. Small, maintains super rhythm. Abigail. So she really gains a lot of points in the canter with this horse, where some horses are really specialists in the piaffe passage. He does well with it, but he's not as special as some, but she gains a lot of points with the pirouettes and the changes and those zigzags. You can see he loses a little bit again. Takes him some steps to get to the piaffe. And then coming out was better this time. But to really get into the carriage for the piaffe, because the passage is just a little bit different front and back. It's not through. We can maybe find a horse, maybe Frederick, where the passage is really one horse. This horse, it's not. He's one thing in the front and one thing in the back, and it's getting good enough points, but he's spectacularly through in the canter. So let's see if we go to Frederick. If that, so she got 80%, I think. That's not what I wanted to do. 80.978. $80.978. And so now you see with a little bit more the enthusiasm from the crowd. Now it gets to be a little too much, but in the beginning there, you could really see him operating in front and back the same with a little bit more confidence, where the test and the turns in the test are difficult for him. So this is Frederick. He, I think, is a very nice rider, and I haven't watched these tests, so you guys we're watching them together for the first time, but I enjoy watching his style and the way that he puts the horses really nicely on his aids and together. So I don't know that the Germans have picked their exact team yet. So he is on the list for Paris, and he has two horses, this one and another one that are both on the list. But I don't know that they've picked their team yet. We have picked ours. So very, really obedient horse, and just, when you, after watching Glamourdale, you can see that he's a little bit less with the front legs, but very honest. And Frederick rides a super nice, accurate forward test. And again, you really see the hind legs through the front legs, through the neck, in these half passes, that it's not too sideways, it's sideways, but the horse is really through from behind. And I love to see those half passes like that. It's just so beautiful and correct. And not the biggest extended trots in the world, but honest front and back, right? So the hind legs are doing the same as the front legs, and that's really what we want to see, not that they open up. And he has a little bit of a hard time establishing himself in the passage there. Really, really nice to the piaffe. Very good. Very good on the spot. Very good in the carriage. And again, just not really having the same carriage in the passage as the piaffe there. I mean, the passage is going to be different as far as the collection, but we want the hind legs and the front legs to be doing the same. And so he's just a little bit losing the rhythm and not establishing himself well enough in that passage for me. Walk is very good. And the collected walks also not completely collected, but nice and clean. 4 beats. Very nice to see the relaxation there and no stress. And then we hope that we get, establish ourselves a little bit better in the passage here. Piaffe transition again, very good. So this is something that he's actually showing you a bit better than we had with the other one. The passage, I would just like to see those hind legs a bit more active in that passage. Piaffe, very good. And Frederick just, really has and there's a mistake in the twos. Well, that's unfortunate. Has a really nice way in his riding. Very good with the extended canter. So the canter is really nice and clean. Change a little early there. So you really 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. And then the change to the other direction. Very good with the zigzag. And here he has again a mistake he often has these mistakes in the changes, which is super unfortunate because you could see how clean Lottie was with her changes, how many points she gains there from that clean canter work that she did, and how he's coming down in his points. The 7.7 he got for the zigzag, which was great, but then a 4 for the one tempies, which is just, sucks all the air out of his points. And then the pirouette, okay with the rhythm, but quite big to the right there. To the left, okay. And I think when you're on the ground there with that extended trot, that it probably looks a bit more spectacular than we see when we're looking at it from the top there. They give him decent scores on that, nothing special. And the passage so nice and straight there. So the judges from the front are really going to get him some good points on that passage. Piaf again, very, very good. Honest, on the spot, very good rhythm, and then just not quite sustaining himself well enough in that passage. Good. All right. So let's see who else we have here. $73.9. So let me see if I can find Stefan. There he is. Oops, there we go. Here we go. I believe that Stefan is the only American that's riding in this Grand Prix. So that's the Super Casper, the horse that he's on the list for Paris. And that's the same horse that Stefan rode in Tokyo. So a little bit of unfortunate tension there in the halt. Very nice with the extended trot. So recovering that tension, little glitchy in the transition back to collected trot. It looks a little nervous in the bridle. So here in the half pass, you see it's a little bit different than the Germans did it, and that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of crossover but you don't see that forward hind legs through the front legs to the bit. It's just a little bit for me, the inside getting stuck and the outside getting pushed against it. So I just love it with Frederick and also Charlotte. You know, you really see that. Just dragging his feet a little bit there in the reining back. With the tension, that's gonna not have the best points for that rein back. So we really want to see that relaxed diagonal pairs in that rein back. And then having a little bit of trouble finding his rhythm in the passage. So you have a little bit different technique with both hind legs. Front legs look pretty good, actually. And losing a little bit that connection in the neck, but finding a nice rhythm in the piaffe, just not 100% honest in the neck. And then again, the two techniques with the hind legs are going to keep that passage. You see that the 6.3, because it's not lame, but there's two different paths of travel with the hind legs in the passage. And the other horses showed us that a little bit too, but not as exaggerated. There, you see that the atmosphere is just, I mean, this is no judgment zone here. This is so hard. Riding in Aachen, it's just got a lot of atmosphere at Aachen. So no judgment. We're just talking about the things that are happening where he's losing a little bit that relaxation in a lot now in the walk, where he just isn't containing himself. A nice clean walk now that he's established it. It's good. But just, you know, he's looking for the passage too much. He's getting a little excited. So both walks, he ends up there within the fours, which is really brought his score way down. So unfortunate. Passage much better established there. Piaffe, I believe, we can't really see, but I believe that's quite early for the piaffe. So, but much better, and much better in his passage, really finding that rhythm better, at least from that view. Very good. A nice relaxed transition to the canter. So, you know, really finding some good moments and some harmony, and then some tension creeping in. Very good jumping in the changes. This horse has such a tremendous extended canter. It's so big. Very good. These guys are throwing those changes in so early there. But the judges let you do it, so I guess it's okay. Good. Stefan rides an amazing zigzag. All of his horses have fabulous zigzags. Very good. So for this horse, the 110 can be quite complicated, and so those aren't the most beautiful 110 in the world, but very good with no mistakes. And so he starts to gain back some of those points. A little bit losing the rhythm, but very nice, tight pirouette. A little bit swinging in the change and then on the line. So he gets a bit behind him there, really. So again, you just start to see the different, he does that little bit of a different technique with the right hind and with the left hind. And he tries so hard, uh, but he cannot get no as expressive as it is in front, you just can't get those marks when he gets so tight there. So not his best test today, unfortunately. So that's too bad. I don't know that he even gets 70% with that. I don't know where let me see if I can let me see if I can see where everybody ended up. Yeah, 68.1. Oof. One judge had him with 69s and 13th, but the other one had 20th. So that's too bad. All right, you guys. So